Hi, my name is Lindsay Morris, and I am here today with Principal Zac Stowell, and we are talking all about a phone-free school. And I'm really excited to get this message out to you because I've been seeing Zac in the news lately, the newspapers, blogs, and I know several of you are dealing with distracted students. And it seems to be quite an issue in our school, but Zac has implemented some new protocols in his school this year and also has been building culture before all of this. And so I'm really excited for you to meet Zac. So welcome to the show, Zac.
Hey, thank you so much. It's good to connect. It's been awesome following your work and journey, and so it's nice to reconnect.
Yes, Zac and I actually went to college together. So this is really fun to have this dialogue. So, Zac, tell us a little bit about what has been going on for this year in regards to phones.
Yeah, I'd say transformative to say the least. I think for us, what we've been doing this entire school year so far is talking about teaching and learning, and that's unheard of. We have implemented the yonder pouches for this school year. We planted seeds almost 2 years ago, but we are now cultivating all the hard work that has happened over those 2 years. And so this is my third year at Robert Eaglestaff Middle School. Started my third year. 17th year in Seattle Public Schools. I was an elementary admin, fifth grade teacher before then, and then came to middle school, which was a different beast, and I absolutely love it. I think when we talk about ways to find a true sense of belonging and culture and community and confidence in who we are, middle school is just ready there for some supports and allow kids the freedoms while stumbling, but also coaching and learning and allowing them to be human. And so these phones, if I can say what the biggest thing we've noticed is this. It's middle school. There's going to be fires. What we've done is remove the phone, so it's removing the fuel from the fires. It's actually conflict happens. We talk to the two. We do some restorative, peaceful coexisting work. They get back to learning, and they're having lunch again together. It's not this like group chat feelings, missing, meeting in the bathroom. It allows me to even have the capacity to speak with you in the middle of a school day. Which is really nice because I have the time and capacity to be present for you, to be present for my students, my staff, my community. And so it's been really nice.
Okay, so how did this all happen? Like, take us from seed. Yeah, let's talk about seed. Like, there was an idea one day, or maybe something happened where you were just like had an aha, like this has to change.
Yeah, let's just say this. Like coming from elementary, we had a school distinction at sweet little Greenwood Elementary in Seattle Public Schools. And then I get transferred to comprehensive middle school that is right off like 90th and Aurora in Seattle. And if you know 90th and Aurora in Seattle, it's a pretty challenging neighborhood with beautiful people, and it's a very diverse population. And so my first day at school, we had new school, new principal, first time meeting the kids. A couple girls jumped a couple other girls right out front, and there was 15 cell phones. And it was out of control. Next day at school, everyone's video circulating, no teaching and learning, and it was an absolute mess just to start off. We instantly had assemblies to like not reset the culture, but just to acknowledge like your experience matters. Like middle school is as challenging as it can be. It doesn't have to be more challenging. And how do you take ownership of this place that you spend more time with us than your family? So we have to peacefully coexist and understand that conflicts happen, and how do we navigate those without compounding things. And so it was a heavy lift. We had staff that didn't feel safe in the classroom or in the hallways at times. It was just and it's not all cell phones, but it was post-pandemic. You know, these students, they've specific middle schools right now, specifically speaking for middle schools right now, you think about the pandemic, they went home and they stayed safe and they potted up, right? And then they came back to school and they distanced, right? And so when you distance and you pot up and you have these things, then it's like, okay, go back to school and be a community. It's like that didn't work. You know, my philosophy is you either intentionally or unintentionally create culture, and I am meticulous about honoring people's experience to make sure that they're all valued in this community where they spend so much time. And so if you fast forward throughout that year, I can't tell you, I mean, kids meeting, texting, meet me in the bathroom over here, texting, some kid walk in, seeing two people walk with me or another teacher. They're texting other people under the table, and all of a sudden they're getting their story straight and all that. I mean, there was even a time when a student Their phone died. This is there's a 12 kid group chat. Their phone just died. They forgot to charge it. They didn't participate. The group thought they had ghosted them. So then at lunch, they're not welcome. So what happens? Hurt people hurt people. They respond. Then the kid responds. And now we have this blow up, tears, frustration, no learning's happening. My counselors are doing it. I'm pulling kids. We're restoring. We're understanding people's perspective. And restorative approaches take time. You can't rush this, right? So then we're pulling kids, doing this. Now, since that happened, people said mean things. They said the things they weren't supposed to share. They're screen capturing it. They're texting it to someone in third period. That kid's not paying attention now because they're eating popcorn and enjoying the show on their phone. And so, like, it just felt like we're just living in this whack-a-mole for like, and it was just all my job was, and the counselors, and it just, and so you fast forward a year, we did amazing things. Amazing things as far as culture. When we ended up taking every student to camp. We took sixth grade to overnight experience, seventh grade and eighth grade, and we said no phones. Like we showed them like, just, you don't have to come, but like, everyone is welcome whether you can pay or not. We're going out in the woods for 4 days, and we did no phones. One of my assistant principal, Devin Murphy, I have to say, this guy is the peanut butter to my jelly. This guy is the truth. He we were like, what barriers do you have? And the kids didn't want to go because they wanted to keep their Snapchat streaks alive. Like, you're not going to go on the school experience because you need your streak alive. They trusted my partner over here, and he would log in. He had like 5 phones at his desk, and he would log in to keep kids' streaks alive while they're camped. Like, that's how dope this guy is. But also, that's how crazy it is that they don't want to go live experiences because they're tethered to this dopamine dispenser, as one of my friends would say. And so once we saw kids out at camp, it was literally like there were different profiles. Day one, it was like posture. Like at the end of the day one, and then day two, and then day three, day four, they're braiding, they're patty cake. It was just like, I don't even know who those kids were. And I asked them, I said, who are you? And I go, oh, there's no phone, so I don't got to worry about someone taking a picture of me. I don't got to worry about Miss being upset because somebody didn't understand the joke, or we just be ourselves. And so kids saying I could just be myself, I couldn't unhear that, right? And I think, to me, that's when I was like, we have to do something. And this was year one. And so like, okay, we can't just rip it off being the new guy yanking phones. Let's just try to do some coach. So we went into the year two with like, social emotional intelligence supports, teaching on the why. We did screenager documentary. We did parent focus groups. We actually did a school-wide tier one conflict resolution. And so we did all of these things, and there was ghost pages that were ship or dip Instagram pages where kids would be walking and they'd snap a photo of these two walking next to each other and then put them on a bully page, and kids would say, should they be dating or not? And then all of a sudden, no one's wanting to get in front of a class presentation because pictures being hidden of snapping. And it was just like, again, you pull the kids, you go to the video, you do this, you do this. One of the kids, sorry, I'm just ranting. I can't even tell you how much time and energy it went into. There was a time when this was just a random crack in the case. There was something that popped up on a bully, and the kid's crying, and she's like, oh, I'm on the ship or dip page. And I was like, what? And I looked, and they showed me, and I saw the kid is wearing the same outfit. And I said, that kid's wearing that outfit over there. Let me go talk to them. And I asked what lunch they had, and I went to the cameras. I saw this. I saw the angle, and literally, this is time. So my security is like, where were they at? How were they there? What's it? And we triangulated the cameras. We found it, and we found out 4 kids walking in a group. One of those 4 kids had taken the photo. Find out they'd taken the photo. They were a student that had been bullied before. And they weren't even the owner of the Instagram page. What happens is you can just message this page, and then your content gets used. So you get the coolness of being part of it when you were actually hurt by it. I didn't understand that. But this is all happening in the middle of a day when learning's supposed to happen. And so and then there was this online, I'm talking like there was racist things, just very mean things that were happening, and group chats. And we started a thing called the SOAR report. We were Ravens. Everyone has to soar together. we're safe, we take ownership, we achieve, and we're resilient. We feel like if you can have these 4 values as adults and kids, we're set up to, like, not trying to dominate with our narrative, but like, how do you feel safe physically, emotionally? How do you take ownership? How do you want to feel cared for? How do we achieve together and be resilient? Middle school's hard. How do we really build some resiliency? And so we started a SOAR report. I went hard with our school board policy around, you have the right to a safe, inclusive school experience, right? And so you have rights as a student. And I don't think students knew that before. Like, you have the right. Like, it's not like no one can infringe on your rights. And so and then of course it was cell phones. So we had QR codes. It was also in the Schoology pages, but QR codes in the bathroom stalls, QR codes around the building where you can just report anything that's unsafe. You can also report shout outs, recommendations to improve your Raven experience. But it was an opportunity for students to just have an outlet that they know is going to be responsive. And so we started the SOAR report, and all of a sudden students, and we just, this underbelly of meanness. And it was all for a sense of belonging through these different ways, but it was unproductive, right? It was actually more damaging than not. So right around the April of last year, we were working with community members, families, and we're like, we've done the coaching, we've done the supporting, we've done the teaching, but they have them and they're just not able, they're addicted and they're not able to put their phones down. The other thing is, like, there's so many families that were like, what they say, my kid's not a part, they don't have social media. Well, you didn't know they had social media, but they have social media because their phones were available at lunch. You had one student with like 7 profiles, and they could just tap on the top corner and drop a profile, and their friends had profiles on their Instagrams and their Snapchats. So while they didn't have their own device with social media, they had it on their friends and at sleepovers and at school and in the hallways. They were able to access these type of things. And it was just this, like, 80% of my job was phones, which meant, and we were making aspirational gains in the building because of all the things we're doing. But it felt like, as fast as you're putting the water out of the boat, there's 1,000 holes. Or like, how about this? Not 1,000 holes. There's no holes except one big one. And we're doing all the things to repair everything, but not addressing the hole, right? Does that make, like, not an analogy that works, but it just didn't make sense that, like, we're doing everything, things are doing okay, but it just is, we're not catching ground. And so that's when we're like, that's it, and it felt crazy in a budget crisis to, like, let's spend money on a pouch that you can put in a backpack. It just doesn't, that doesn't sound like a good use of budget. But let me just say this. This is one thing. This is crazy. Lindsay, I can tell you, like, the things that people don't see is this. We have staff that have pivot fatigue and staff that have gone through the ringer the last 5 years, 6, 7 years, if they've been in education, period, right? Sometimes we're just thankful that the staff show up because they may be navigating cancer, their family, they may be having an abort, they may just be going through, there's so many different variables that humans go through, right? And so they show up. Now, every day this kid's got his phone out and she's arguing, and you know what? They're finally like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. I have a job to do. I just have to teach, right? The next teacher is very firm, different, right? And they have the capacity. They're just, put your phone away and this. And then all of a sudden the kid says, I'm not going to curse here. F you. That teacher lets me do it. You're an a-hole, right? So now you have staff that are like, do you not do your, right? And so I'm not saying that happened a lot, but it didn't not happen. It was real. Like, it's like, people are human. Like, we have to meet them where they're at. And when teachers had to, like, be the enforcers of this. So, like, there's an argument. Why don't you just have the teachers take the phones, put them in pouch? Duh, you save all this money. It's like, yeah, but you know what? Like, the students that do that and they don't follow it, they get their phone taken away. And so they don't have their phone now, right? And do you know, like, how invisible kids feel when they're the only ones without their phone? And these are historically marginalized students as it is, because typically there's students that have been not necessarily connected. Otherwise, they just put it in the pouch and move on. There's a reason, there's a function behind the behavior right there. So now we're going to penalize them, take all their social network away. They're already not connected. Otherwise, they would have been, compliant with a rule. And so then we're hammering those that have already been hammered. And it doesn't seem right. And then the teachers have to be the enforcers. which again, like they're supposed to teach, plan, and different, like meet kids, understand their assets, and build off their beautiful brilliance. And it's just the capacity is not there when you have these phones. And so the simple phone pouch, when we explained it with the kids, we explained it with the families, we explained it with everyone, allowed us to hit the ground running this year, and we're flourishing. And I'll let you ask a question. I mean, you can see it's not just passion, but it's my time, it's my energy, it's my work. It's insane.
So I'm curious, when I think about pivoting, especially after COVID, where, because there's a lot of schools who are going to want to do what you did, but did you start with a staff meeting and you all came together? Did you start with a leadership team and you first talked about it in small groups?
Yeah.
Where did you start with all this?
Well, I had done research my year one. I was like, oh, these things are gone. But coming in as a new guy, don't do that. Don't be the person that adopts and then plug and play without any engagement. Teachers needed something different. They were asking for support with phones, period. And again, some teachers find building relationships with certain kids easier than others. Those that had better relationships with the demographic then had no cell phone problems. So I don't know what you're talking about. Just build relationships. But if that's not already happening, just saying that does not, so it becomes divisive as it is, right? And I think that, and so we had talked with the staff, and imagine having budget cuts where staff FTEs, staff like is getting reduced, and you're talking about buying a pouch, like that is not a good feeling. It wasn't nearly enough to cover 0.2 of a staff, so that's not it. That's not it. But it just optics wise, right? It just doesn't feel right. Also, I didn't come out the gate with trying to promote all of this stuff like I knew it was going to work. I was like, this is a risk. We've tried this, we've tried this, we've tried this and this. Here's where we're at. We're drowning. So, and everyone is like, let's do it. And I talked to the families, and when I shared with the families, I did a video. I don't know if I'm not going to show the video, but I'd like to maybe share my screen a little bit later about the s'more that I've done. As a matter of fact, I'll kind of pull it up as I'm talking. But we ended up having focus group with a couple families. We talked with students. We talked with our staff. I met with other school leaders that have done this that are across the country. We looked at the data, and I don't know if you've, I'm not getting paid from this book or anything, but if you've ever heard of the book Anxious Generation, you read that book and you just look at the world a little differently. So if you can see my screen over here, this is an approach, not the approach. This is just what we did. We had 22,000 clicks on it. We only have like 740 kids, but I did create a video around like, just like what it's like that we're doing building culture, because you have to really show families that like kids are capable of navigating without phones. And then we went through basically the why, like here's why. I just can't compete with billion-dollar companies. And then after that, we did about the time. 45 teachers, 6 periods a day, 5 minutes a day. It turned out to be like 40 days of lost instructional minutes. Just it's concrete. We went over about what it looked like. We went over, the pouches, where they're going to be, mapped it out. And again, the culture work that we're doing. Here's the why. The other thing is safety. I'm going to talk about the safety thing in a second. And then I had my PTA back me, right? And we're saying, you want to hear from them. These are the folks that are helping with this message. This is our team. I then put resources around podcasts for families to listen about the dangers of social media with kids, resources with Anxious Generation, the Surgeon General information, again, the graphic around how much, and then frequently asked questions. And then also, like, this is life without phones. There's joy. There's connectedness. It's beautiful when we have done it. And so let's really embrace humanity and give kids an opportunity to be kids. If I can really hammer away a couple things today, like for us, this juice has been worth the squeeze based on our 500 different strategies to support an inclusive community, and then really anchoring it with the phones being put away for those to really meet their potential. The other thing is the safety component. Parents were concerned. Like, what's your argument for parents? I said, I'm not going to argue. I'm going to embrace and say, yeah, that I hear you. And I also say, and, I don't want to say, but I want to go, and like in a situation of emergency, parent getting a phone call from a kid instead of that kid listening to the adult to keep them safe is not going to keep them any safer. It's not going to happen. They need to listen to the adults. We need to make sure that things are safe. And when it's time, we have these unlocking things in all our safety bags, and kids will have access to those. But getting a phone call in a case of emergency will not keep your kids safer. It actually puts them at more harm's way. In addition to that, this is what I'm going to push back on everyone. Just if we did the dirty work, the long play, the hard work around creating an inclusive community where everyone has a sense of belonging, maybe we don't have the safety concerns that are relevant today. And so I implore it to do the work around the culture to ensure that everyone has equitable access to reaching their full potential in your school community. If you do that, we don't have to worry about the violence that is ensuing around our country.
And for those people who like to know the ins and outs, okay, well, what did you do? I know in the beginning of this, you said this is not a plug and play. This is a lot of intentional work around building safety, building connection. But what would be your top three things, or maybe just tell us three things that you've done to create more of a sense of belonging at your school with students or staff?
All right, I told you I'm a little crazy, but I'm going to show you my wall in my office, okay? Here we go. So look over here on this wall. See all that craziness? That's 38 weeks. It's this way. 38 weeks of excellence over there. Now, the reason I showed you that insanity is because we have 38 weeks, 182 days with kids and families, okay? We map out the entire year, and this is for more of the teachers and the school administrators or central office folks. What we've done here in Washington State, we get evaluated by 8 criterion. The third one is focus students. Criterion 3 is focus students. Now, with different teacher union contracts around the state, they're able to select any of their ways to get evaluated. That is what it is. But here at Eagle Staff, every single one of my teachers has selected criterion 3 for their goal, which means they're focusing on our historically marginalized students or students that are not yet reaching their full potential. Now, this is 6 to 10 kids. The reason I'm saying this is a strategy is because we're meeting with them. We're letting them know we're learning from their experience. We are interviewing them, connecting with their families. We're understanding who they are as kids and figuring out what their assets are, and then designing instruction based on that assets to find a sense of belonging in that classroom. When we have an opportunity to design a unit, we're getting input. And then at the end, how was that for you? Is there something we could have done differently? What are your thoughts on? And then we take that information and that student data and run those same through students through our PLCs, professional learning communities, all year long. The reason I'm saying that's so important is our behaviors went down because our connections went up, right? And then so there's a trust, there's we shifted teacher mindset to move from deficit to asset and then really build on those. And so the biggest thing, it's not, again, that's why it's not the pouch thing, right? It was more of we get to know kids. We're trying to connect. We're not perfect. This is our PD. This is our learning, but we are moving towards that. Your experience matters as a student, and not everyone is going to conform to our 4 corners of the normal education box we have, right? And so I think the one thing is our teachers believe in that behavior is a function of need. We're trauma informed. We're trying to do as much culture responsive lessons as we can while getting feedback on their experience. And so I have an elite staff here that have been founded here, but also hired on that are about that work. And so the first thing is the teacher mindset, because they're a team. But also, how do you as a leader set that up for collaboration that's safe and not weaponized? Different things, right? So the teachers, because they're the keepers, they're the boots on the ground. So how do we support them? And they are the ones doing the work, focusing on our highest impacted or historically marginalized students. And then in addition to that, student experience. We have our robust diversity. You don't have to get voted in to be a leader here. You want to show up on Thursdays to be in the ASB and plan our events, show up. You are a leader, period. And if you want to lean into your leadership, you have an opportunity to. And so we went into the student experiences between camp, between dances, between assemblies. We do culture building assemblies. We also do an advocacy time in our schedule. So Mondays is tier 1 social emotional intelligence. So everyone's getting this tier 1 support. And Tuesday and Thursday is SOAR time. What do you need to work on, and how can we support you in reaching your potential? Take ownership. And then we have smaller groups for those times. And so when you think about designing and centering your historically marginalized and learning and supporting, time for them to have this experience, this Raven experience, and then remove phones and then foster those natural connections. Would love to kind of share my screen real quick and just show you what that looks like in real life. Then, traction happens. I am excited to see what this looks like. And here's the, I don't want to, this is not a gloat. Please, I really hope this does not come off as a gloat thing, but I do want to just share something real quick as well around not just my words, because I can sit here and talk and do everything, but what are other people saying? And I think that's the most important part. If we say your experience matters, but we never have quantitative or qualitative data on that, well, then we're just blowing smoke. And so we have our fall student and staff survey, not quite public. I'm just going to be a little vulnerable real quick to share, but it's not a flex because my staff are the ones that are creating the answers to this. This is my staff. 95% of my staff up 8 higher than the district. This is their staff survey of a sense of belonging here. A staff survey around, look at this. I mean, we're doing culture responsive anti-racist work up from 65%, and it keeps going up and up to 94%. Like, I mean, even down here, I mean, it went down 2%, but that's leadership actively confronts. It's 98% of staff. And this is what's happened when we center the experience of the students and then build safe places for students to be themselves. If we go to the student survey, everything is up. Our social emotional, these are elementary numbers for a middle school. Our inclusionary practice, our anti-racist, our sense of belonging. And this is with us taking cell phones. This is after last year, right? And so they have a higher sense of belonging. Adults care about me. We took your phones. And you still think we care about you. We do. But I'm just saying, we were concerned that you were going to feel punished. And so when you have this type of response, it feels really good. And this is our lunchroom. This is a staff member. Are you kidding me? They're doing a Just Dance in a lunchroom. That's not happening with phones. They would get roasted on the internet, and they just want to be kids and connect. Can't unsee that. Yeah. And that's not happening unless you have the framework, the safety, the connectedness, right? The culture that we have here that's student-centered, teacher-centered, family-centered. And I'm just trying to be the one that's pointing people to the North Star, but my staff, man, they are elite.
Wow, that is so much great information. And I'm glad that you have things to share with us of like, here are the results that we're seeing. Here's the lunchroom, here's the research. I'm curious to go back to teacher mindset because this comes up a lot in the work that we're doing. Is people get really excited about certain things, especially social emotional learning and restorative practices and all that. But many staff would say that it doesn't really go anywhere unless an administrator is on board. Mm-hmm. Because when an administrator is on board, they can help move that forward. So when you talk about transforming teacher mindset, how did you do that?
I want to come back to this real quick because this supports that teacher as far as feeling supported. If a phone pops up, which it's happened we have 740 kids, like 4 or 5 times this school year, and we're in end of November. Teacher, all they do is put this on the desk, walk away and go teach. It says, you have technology that's not allowed at school. Please take this to the front office and be back in 4 minutes. They come to the front office. Hey, good morning. Hey, guys, I got to turn my phone in. Sounds good. Here's your pass. Head back to class. Once is an instance, twice a trend, 3 becomes problematic, and we just communicate and we co-design the response with the family. But the teacher does nothing except puts this down and goes and teach. Now, if they don't go, are we going to yell at them? No, there's a function behind that. What is really going on? You normally are okay. We put a behavior tracker. It pings the admin or a counselor. We know the kid. We may know more information. So we either go support in that moment, or you know what? I'm going to catch them in passing and say, how are you? Let's catch up. And we're going to kind of support behind. And so when you have those type of responsive, supportive systems, and it's not hinged on just one person, but it's a system, then teachers are going to feel supported and then be able to say, damn, I don't agree with this, but I've been trusting. So let's just try it. But I do think there are things that to build our staff culture here, how did we get to where we're at? I think honoring people where they're at, no matter, I always say every teacher is a LeBron James. You're either year one or year 22. You got the tools, you're professionals. You know, LeBron used to come baseline dunk nonstop in his early years, but has learned to add tools to his toolbox, keep his mind and his body right, and be able to like evolve with the shifting of the game. He doesn't play the same game he does when he was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Education is not the same as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so by adding tools to your toolbox and being the mindset around, you're never there. In education, I know I was, what are you going to tell me, arrogant teaching? But I was like, no, we have so much to learn as the kids evolve and like the practices evolve and our needs. We're not there. So how do we continue the same practices? Now, coming into a new building, just gave a professional development to new admin this week around at AWSP, and the biggest thing they're getting is their staff are walking on eggshells and tippy toes around them because they're at a fear that they're going to be evaluated in some negative way. The evaluation's taken out of our language. We're in the human development and growth. Myself, I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, and it's what we do. And then the evaluation says, hey, what do we focus on next year? People are coming back. We don't remove kids. We don't remove teachers. We build off their assets and develop them because it's the only way. And so when you come into this mindset and you share that and you support it, now have people left the field? Yes, people have said through some of this deprivatizing vulnerable business that they're just not about that and they have left the field. But haven't had to like push anyone out. It's humanizing. It's like growth, opportunities, vulnerability. And so our PD has been documentary screenings where we unpack books, podcasts. Like we're trying to show kids that we're trying to do teaching and learning to build out their assets with these different ways. We gotta do the same thing with our staff. And then also that wall is designed by our building leadership team, instructional council team, and this. It's like, hey, here's our cycles. What is our focus? And part of the PD I was given to these admin is there's ways to use the data to give us motivation and fuel our fire to meet the needs of our kids compared to being weaponized and shaming and punitive. Like that doesn't do anything. So it's a paradigm. It's a mindset shift. But it comes from the leader creating those safe spaces. We also on that mat, like on the, 38 weeks of excellence over there, we have monthly inside of school connections, outside of school connections, the next with our staff. We go to Mariner games together. My mom cooks empanadas for us. We do so many things to connect as a team here that inside, outside meet different people's needs because we can lean on those to have hard conversations because we know each other, right? And so we have to, where do you get the money for this? There's ways. There are ways, and people want to care for people. There are ways. If you have any questions, hit me up sometime. I'll throw some gems your way. It's important work to take care of our people. They're the ones doing the work. And when you honor them because they have a voice in the work they're doing, when we honor them because we're giving critical feedback that is meaningful, that helps them develop. 98% of this staff result says my admin helps me achieve the goals that I set for myself. Like, that's insane. And it's not from me, it's from them being collegial with each other to do that. This is not solo work. This is group work. And people are used to being on islands and close their door and teach. And so what we've done is open up doors, met people where they're at, honor them where they're at, and grow together. So we expect that for kids. We got to do that with adults.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like safety and connection for both students and staff is a big theme for laying the foundation for, the cell phone pouch.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like, as I was saying, like, if you think about it, let's go back to the pandemic thing here. Pod to stay safe, right? Stay away in the building. Then come back and you're fine. But we've already programmed you that small few is safe. So I'm going to stick to my group chat. Now at lunch, check this out. I'm at lunch. My friends don't have this lunch. I'm pissed off. And I'm just going to text them in group chat and TikTok because I'll see them later on, not knowing that there's other people that can be their friends, right? I don't have the class with my person. Okay, teacher's over there. I'm going to have down here and I'm going to stay connected with them no matter what. What we've done is remove that, create other healthy opportunities to connect. We had 100 kids show up on Saturday. We started a Saturday school. And so Saturday school is not Ferris Bueller's Punitive. This is not that, my friends. This is like, we have staff cooking pancakes. We have free tutoring. We have mentoring. We have open gym. and kids can just come hang out. Again, we're on 90th and Aurora. This summer, there was like 40 shootings in 2 months between that street right there, 85th and Aurora, and 115th. These are bullets that are whizzing by my kids that are in a walk zone. You cannot get a bus here. This is the reality. There's half naked people. We've had our students that walk home and people are trying to pick them up thinking they're escorts, but they're just little 11-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids. You can't understand. They can't even play at the park over here. And there's not even a mall anymore. Like, go hang out, little mall rats, like I used to be. But like, so we have to think about these things where it's like, how do we create and foster safe ways to connect and give opportunities to be vulnerable? Camps, field trips, a lot of collaboration in the classroom, a lot of coaching mindset in classroom. We gain from each other's differences, right? And so the Saturday school is just a place for us to come, and we partnered with this amazing partner called Rise Above, and they come and they send some manpowers, and we got our staff out here. I mean, the staff is energized to come on a Saturday for a couple hours and come shoot hoops, play volleyball, or tutor, or eat some pancakes. It's like, it's a vibe. But again, that has to happen for these things to be able to be, we trust, right? Teachers have to trust that we're not going to weaponize this. Students have to trust that we're going to take these away. Well, what about, how do we connect then? And so you skill build on both sides for this like safe, love, and humanizing approach to education.
So with all that foundation, take us through like what does the day look like with these pouches? Like, what are the pouches? Do you have a pouch with you?
Yeah, pouches right here.
Yeah. So
Goes
like,
here.
right when arrives to school, what happens?
But basically, kids get off the bus. You just see them open up. They get a pouch at the beginning of the year. They get their laptop. They get their stuff, right? And that's it. So we had an ice cream social to launch our party. So the kids, the day before school, got 2 days before school, and the day before school, we had like a makeup. They came. We had music outside, sports, footballs. They came and got their schedules. They came and got their ice cream social, and they got their pouch. It was a vibe. And then they rolled out. Next day, you do not enter the building with your phone from day one. Okay. So they came to school. They put their pouch in the bag. We had pouch distribution for those that weren't able to make it. And it was like, oh my God, kids like feeling like, I feel so weird. I don't. And they put their phones in the pouch. They put it in there. Am I looking at every single one's? No. I'm not the police. I'm not going to open your bag and go through it. Phones are away for the day. There's a couple kids that tried to be cool and do this. You can see it just flopping around in their pants, and like the what do you call it? Like the purses that had the phones and everything else. Kids are like, trying to hide it when they walk by. It's like, I don't even gotta ask for you. You know your phone's not in your pouch. Come with me. Put it in there, and like they're just like, And then we were vigilant for 3 days, and we were so kind and nurturing and like responsive. Like, we understand. Like, I'm not gonna punish you, but also I want to ask you a question. Look at everyone else that's doing it. What is it about this for you that is like, don't you think that's kind of a challenge? Like, you don't have control, so you need to like, and we have conversations. Like, I got 2 little baby boys at home. What if I let them every single day eat candy for dinner? They would, right? They would love it. And I don't do that. And so like, you have this candy, and I'm just saying, I'm doing what's best for you. I feel I'm doing what's best for them. I feel, right. And so like, and kids like, oh, I got it. And they put it in there. We document it, and it's all good. But then if it trends up, which it's only happened a couple times with our historically marginalized students, like, they're the ones that have, in this specific community building, that have like, we haven't found ways to connect. And now we're co-designing with families responsive, and we're finding ways to connect. And it's working because we're intentional, and we have the capacity to, because we're not chasing people with phones. It's great. And so their phones are in their pouches. They come in, end of the day, they leave. We have these like sensors. Should have brought one. The sensors, and they're mounted all outside, and they just walk, tap, and go. Walk, tap, and go. Very simple. And so,
And that locks the pouch for the day.
Pouches are unlocked. All they do is push this button, and it's locked for the day. And then they go outside after, tap this on the thingy, and it pops open. And that's it.
Would you be willing to share how much a pouch costs for those that are interested?
Yeah, I think they're around $25, and there's cheaper ones, more expensive ones, and things like that. But around $25 is what we've ended up paying. This is Northwest PBS that comes. You can see, clicks in there. You come in, just tap it, doop, pops open, and you're good to go.
And then if they forget their pouch, they just go to the office and get
Yeah, they have been phenomenal. I can't even tell you how cool these kids have been. Oh, Stowell, I forgot my stuff. I said, it's all good, man. Go turn it into Shoe to go. Shoe Craft's my admin secretary. He's got like a little sleeve in his office. He puts them in there, puts a post-it. The kids come after school and grab it. It is seamless. Shoe Craft, I'm sorry, man, I forgot. He's like, no problem. Everything is human. Like, you can make a mistake. It's all good, you know? But they own it. It's the ownership part, right? You're teaching into the values like my dad. And then we're like, cool. And they got it. You know, that you're allowed to make mistakes. We're good.
that first day. You said they knew that they were going to need to be doing the pouches.
We said in April, eighth graders, we love you. You're lucky. Sixth and seventh graders, here's why. It's April. We understand. You know, be mindful of the use the rest of the year. We're not going to just pivot. We're not going to yank them. Be mindful of the uses and the challenges. And then we talked to kids. Something popped because it was like this ember that just kept flaming. I was like, I'm going to respond and care for kids, but taking them away is going to cause let's just find ways to peacefully coexist. And every time it would happen, I said, if this wasn't at school, it wouldn't be happening. Oh, this was crazy. First day of school, student comes up to me. I heard that this person did this and this and this, and they're saying this. And I was like, it was about a student that was here, transferred because they had moved, but they had told their friends in a group chat before school that they're not coming because they'd fight this person if this happened and that, right? And they came to me and they said, we heard this. I said, no, that's not true. And that student moved. They're wonderful. They're at another school. If you want to write letters to her or something else, I can send snail mail or you can text her after school, right? And they laughed and said, oh, okay. And I said, real quick, come back. I've been to a bunch of schools growing up. My dad was in the Navy. And I said, you know, sometimes when your feelings are hurt, you don't respond in the best way. It's got to feel bad that she's at a new school and her friends are here. And, you know, and so she's probably not responding in the best ways. And so instead of adding fuel to that fire after school with some group chat stuff, just be mindful that she might be really hurting and she might be wanting something positive instead of negative. And they're like, all right, Stowe, I appreciate that. Take care. And they left. Now, had that been phones during school, they would have screen captured that, text that to their friend that was the one that they had a problem with, and then their friends and their friends. And then at lunch, they would have been a show off or showdown. And all of a sudden, no one's paying attention to no one, you know. And I just wait. I was at the first, I'm talking bell rang, kids come in here. We want to report something, you know, because we are used to reporting because we respond. So report. And also, no one's using the QR. It's in all their classrooms now, but they saw people being responsive, so they don't use the report. They just come talk to an adult. Yes. And so they come in and report right after the bell, and they left. And I didn't hear about it again because it was over, because there's no phones for things to keep the fuel going. It was crazy. Here's what we did also. So that's the sixth and seventh graders. We planted seeds in April. We also did school tours of all of our feeder schools about the Raven experience. Your experience matters. At middle school, here's what it looks like. We talk about, you know, what about classes? What about this? We talk about robotics and this. And so we do this like promo tour. And we went to 9 different elementaries in our region that were all going to send kids here. And we talked about the Raven experience. We said, no phones, but here's why. Here's why. And I was like, can you understand? And they're like, yeah. I said, but at any point, if you think you would benefit from something that we can do here, then please let us know so we can make sure that we accommodate your need. And they're like, thanks. So, and they were super pumped to come to school with no phones. And so if you think about like survive, coach here, give examples of the why, go down here and tell the why. And those sixth graders, it was in one of the news articles recently, I think it's the Seattle Times, where they're like, you know, I felt my mom said I can't get a phone. And I feel I love this policy because then I don't have to feel embarrassed for not having a phone at school. I'm not the only one. I can just be. I was like, I didn't think about that. That's pretty awesome. There's a lot of intentional thinking about what can be received by families, by kids, by this, and just planning accordingly, talking lots of conversations, lots of small moment conversations of the why. You know, one kid in the lunchroom that was interviewed for the Seattle School Beat TV thing, she came up to me and she was like, Stowell, why can't we just have our phone? I said, oh, at lunch. I said, well, let's sit down and talk. Sat down and talked. I said, dang, I never ever thought about that. I said, yeah, do me a favor. Look around and kind of see more kids talking. It's really loud in here. And guess what? I love it. We opened up the library for a quiet place because it's a little louder. We had to buy more ball. Oh, kids were like, if you're doing this, kids they was like just touching nonstop because they had nothing in their hands. It was ridiculous. I was like, what is going on? And I was like, oh my goodness, they don't have their phones. So we had to buy triple the amount of equipment. We bought games for them to play at lunch. ASB, we got foosball tables coming on the way. And so replacement behaviors for culture. If you're going to take that away, we got to fulfill over here. Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see this. Yeah.
Wow. And where do you typically find funding for the replacement behaviors? Is the
Yeah.
PTA helping with that, or?
We have a very supportive PTA, but again, we have a very diverse population school here, so not everyone participates. I have been very lucky to find if you're not going to outdoor school, I do think your sixth graders and your eighth graders need to go. I think there's a Washington Schools grant, Washington Outdoor School Education. They have a grant for fifth and sixth graders. It's a great opportunity for you guys to take your students to build community and culture outside. We just got back from sixth grade camp last 2 weeks ago. And we go eighth grade camp. We go eighth grade camp in September. So we don't wait till the end. We go to build culture and community, and then we like lean on that the rest of the year because we've had so many good times and we can find ways to restore because we established EMR, establish, maintain, restore. You can't restore anything that's not there. And so, and then outside of that, there's grant money. There's matching through Boeing, through Microsoft, through we have people work at all these different places, and we can be strategic on matching. Donors choose, PTA, but yeah, there's ways to find funding. Another thing, we didn't have funding fully funding last year, so what we did was for our camp experience for our seventh graders, we did a ropes course at High Trek during the day. We broke into field groups. So we had these field groups that are not their typical kids. We want to get them mixed up, no phones. They mixed up, they circulated during the day. So we were there from like 9 a.m. to like 7 p.m. And then we came back to the school for a lock-in. And so we locked the doors. We had open gym, karaoke, art, movie, and then we slept in the building. So that was our camp experience here in the building. It was cool. Super cheap too. But the kids the eighth graders that went to Orkila for 4 days, we should have just spent the night. I was like, okay, you know how much energy that took to me that, yeah, but it was great.
Okay, so this is all great professional, just amazingness, like what you're doing to transform your school. I'm curious on a personal note, where does your drive for safety and connection come from? Because what I'm hearing is this is a huge focus, and I'm wondering what preceded this to get you here.
My why, which is very important. The why is very important. Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my dad joined the Navy, and we moved to South Carolina, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Bremerton. I went to like 10 schools growing up. And so when you're going to 10 schools and you're the new guy, and you may be only there for a year, maybe there for 3 years, you may be an all-star in baseball in one city and you come over and you haven't been in their farm league, so you don't have an opportunity because you're not even known, even though you're hitting better. Like there's all these different ways of othering and not having the sense of belonging. I'm also a minority man that in Chicago wasn't dark enough for some communities and wasn't light enough for others. And it was, just this sense of belonging wasn't always felt by me. And it wasn't until I met Miss Hester, who's a mentor, saw some of my behaviors, and instead of punitizing me, she got me connected with school clubs, Mr. Smith, Mr. Sullivan. These guys were like, "Oh, you think you're tough? Why don't you join the wrestling team?" I was like, "Oh, what?" Because I was, behaviors were popping because I was sad. I was moving around. I wasn't connected. And so some people saw that my behaviors were a function of need, and they helped fulfill that need. And then I realized that, damn, that was a good feeling. I didn't go straight to college. My parents didn't go to college. I didn't go to college until 4 or 5 years after I didn't have access. And so when I finally had drive, I was like, man, I want to go do that. That was a good feeling that they did for me. And I want to go do that. So just being a new kid, multiple schools, and knowing how it didn't feel, I was like, man, I want kids to feel connected at all times, loved. And, I think getting different color field trip permission slips or not going because I didn't have the money. Like everyone has to have equitable access to the Raven experience or A experience or schooling experience. Being a troublesome kid, but I had so much to offer, but some teachers never gave me a chance. Look at this. I'm really good at this. You never asked, And so, didn't plan on going into leadership until I had maybe a little bit of a revolving, like I wanted to be a principal one day, but having a revolving door of some schools burn and churn through admin. And it's like, man, if we could focus on these things over here, maybe we could set a foundation for this, like humanizing, like that would allow us for not churning through staff and then admin, which then impact our kids even worse. So, yeah, just my experience of not feeling connected said, nah, if I have an opportunity to make people feel cared for and connected, let me do my work. And then teach others. I think that's the thing is me not being the keeper. I'm a bridge. Me teaching others to then care. That was my one, being a solo principal, sometimes you take things on, but coming here where there's a little larger and I'm like, dang, I can't be the keeper. I need to build systems. Actually, will you help me build systems? And it's not me building, it's like this collaborative. And I was like, oh, shoot. When we collaboratively create systems centered around our students that are historically marginalized and the experience of all, outcomes can happen.
Wow, what a story, and what an amazing thing that you've implemented that is not just one thing. Although you may be watching because of the phones, you have quickly realized that there is a deeper layer underneath all of this from what we see. Like oftentimes we see the transformation, we see the iceberg, but we don't often see what's underneath the water. And what I've heard from this entire interview is it's safety, it's connection, it's bringing the families in, it's getting funding for everybody, it's creating opportunities for everybody to win. And that's what I
Humanizing.
love.
I think it's
Yes.
humanizing in this tech world where I get default. I haven't seen it in a while. We should all connect our central people in a while. Like we get default to this comfort over here, these bubbles, while there's so much amazingness happening out there, and being three-dimensional and connecting and making authentic, real connections. It's just, there's something also that's fueling a fire of giving these kids a different opportunity that doesn't have to be. Can I just say one last thing? My partner, Murphy, over there, man, he was like, Zach, what I compare it to is like one door fell off a Boeing airplane and the world stopped. Like it was like legislation, there was fines, there was, laws, and like stocks plummeted. I was like, so one door, and no one died. The one door, right? The Boeing thing, billion-dollar companies are rewiring the way our youth are navigating the world, and we're doing nothing. I had to do something. And this is just my effort. So does that make sense? I don't know why this is not more of a sense of urgency.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing something.
Yeah.
So. And doing it daily. I know how taxing sometimes this career education can be. It's pretty stressful according to the statistics. And we have high teacher burnout and admin burnout, but it sounds like you have systems in place to make sure that you're not only providing everybody else connection and support, but you are doing that for yourself as well. So thank you for being here today. Any final last statements, or like the one gem that you hope people leave today with?
I know I talked a lot, but I listen a lot. I think that's the one thing is like listen, multiple voices at the table, extend the table. Just make sure people that you don't just say you care, but you show up with action. I think that's important. But I appreciate this opportunity to connect, and always a lifeline around.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for tuning in to the Generation Wellness Spotlight Show. And if you have any comments, go ahead and email us, and any future ideas for shows, we'd love to hear from you. But feel free to share this episode with as many of your colleagues as you would like. And we'll be excited to see you at the next one.